Alrighty, good morning, everybody, and welcome to
Really?
245th OMG convening of the Broadband Hui. Thank you for joining us today. Even though it's a small crew, we always record every week to share the aloha. Today, it's looking like it is just me on the crew. I know that Chrissy is out traveling and Marlo's having some issues with her Zoom, but that's okay. We holamua and power through. I am dropping the link to today's agenda in the chat. Here we go. Today is not that busy, but we do have some people that will be, oh, Milo's here, that will hopefully come on board to meet with us, but that's okay. We'll wait for them to show up. Going through today's mana'o o kala. Today's mana'o I got from someone's bag, like from the side of their bag. It was really cool. So today's mana'o is never cease to act because you fear to fail. Isn't that nice? Never cease to act because you fear to fail. And that's from our queen, Lili'ua Kalani. We mahalo you and all the ike that you provide us. All right. But with that, I guess we can just jump on in to UH updates. Yeah.
Okay, wow. Super tiny group today. But no
That's
worries.
okay. No worries.
Yeah. Okay. So the main update that we have is that we are pausing or delaying the actual awarding of the RFP. I think as if you had looked at our timeline, we were supposed to announce the award already by now, and then begin our outreach. But at this time, we just like literally hot off the presses late last week, got word from NTIA that there will be additional guidance coming down. And so in the interest of not wanting to award it and then have to redo the whole thing because there's new guidance coming, or we had to adjust new guidance, we have made the decision, along with our FPO, to just pause for, we're not exactly sure how long, but we think hopefully no longer than 4 to 6 weeks. And then that way, whatever their guidance is, we can incorporate it into the award and be done with it. We fully expect all locations to be covered still yet, provided that they're not like water tanks or things that weren't supposed to be locations. And we do think also that this new guidance may come with, more specific information about alternative technologies. So that's the news from us. It's a pause. It is not a stopping completely, but this does affect possibly our outreach plans. And so we have reached out to all of our county partners and let them know about this. And so today I was kind of hoping to share with you guys what our outreach calendar would look like. But instead, this is kind of the main things that we have on. We had like twice as many things listed for and including other counties, but at this time, we're just going to continue with overall information sessions on Oahu, Mahalo, County of Honolulu for setting these up. We are still planning to travel to Molokai for a resource fair there. That's more of like a tabling event. And we are still also planning to go to 1 or 2 locations on Maui that have a lot of locations that'll be hooked up. But those dates are all kind of TBD. But this is what our outreach for right now looks like. And you can anticipate that once we actually receive the guidance from NTIA, are able to wrap up our final proposal as planned, that we will be heading out to County of Hawaii and Kauai at that time as well, and possibly also go back again to some places on Maui. So that's my update from there. Happy to take any questions if there are any. Um, but again, it's just a delay and not a discontinuation.
I don't have any questions, but just to kind of add more context for Hawaii Island, we are gonna work with UH to do some more community outreach, more so for the like the Ka'u Puna area, because that's where a lot of the locations are gonna be. But right now, our community outreach is more so just tabling. So right now we do a good tabling session and we provide a briefing. We call it like our community primers. And this has like a little breakdown of the locations per council district. And we also have access to the different digital literacy classes happening, and we're able to sign folks up at our tabling events. So that's what our take is on it. If that's why you don't see our island on top. But we will be doing some in-person sessions if people would like to attend those things as well.
Yeah, these were listing only things that the BEAD office was planning to do on top of whatever the counties were already planning for their broadband awareness and outreach. Dan?
Well, of course, I got questions. So the what I heard is that there is enough money to cover every known location, every location on the how should I say the map, the official list of unserved and underserved.
You heard that correctly. With the only tweaks being to your statement being that through the final proposal process and the RFP process, there might have been some locations that are not actually servable or shouldn't be on the map because they're either water towers, an existing building that is already connected that was in the list in error. So there are one of the difficulties, I guess, of us doing outreach before everything is finalized is that there are a tiny amount of changes to the map. So the map that you can see is not the final. It's like the final, but not the final.
And no, I understand,
Yeah.
and
But yes, your interpretation is correct. And what you heard is
so
correct.
so I would urge that the state of Hawaii set a target to be the first state in the country to be 100% connected. And my definition of 100% means that you either are connected with, the adequate service, or if you hadn't signed up, you could get it, within 10 business days should you request it. And I think that would be a good kind of rallying, thing that we could rally around and help the counties, make it possible. So can you say how many bidders? No. Okay.
Hey Dan, this is Ed.
Yeah.
If I can jump in our meetings with DHHL as well as with DBED, the initiative seems to extend to what I would call before up to last mile, but not including last mile. So when we discussed with DHHL, they didn't talk about end user connectivity. They discussed coming up to the block or the pedestal or the last demarc. Okay, so they didn't talk about it in terms of end user connectivity, which is what I think back in DC they're looking at readjusting. Okay, I think they're more looking at what I would call middle mile carrier to the pedestal.
Right. And I understand that. That's why I said,
Yeah.
I expect the vendors, the contractors to run it down the street, right? And you could get connected within 10
Actually,
feet.
fiber to the home or last 1,000 feet is up to the subscriber.
Right, but you could get it within 10 days. I mean, because I have a
Well, if you
problem
do
with,
construction in 10 days, then that's fine. But in many cases, it's
yeah,
not.
no, I'm just saying as a definition, because what we've heard on the Waianae Coast is that Hawaiian Tel has not had, the take rate was not what they expected. And then I think for Hawaiian Tel to be saying, well, we're going to be 100% enabled, um, fiber enabled, I think that's kind of vague. Whereas I'm suggesting a criterion that says you could get it within 10 business days were you to
Well,
ask
if you
for
talk
it.
to the Moku navigators, which we're involved with now, they're not getting, that last 1,000 feet is not included. That's where the end user connectivity doesn't really match up. Well, you went on the survey with us, so you know.
Right,
So,
right. But I'm
sorry,
saying,
Deborah.
yeah, no, well, anyway, we can debate it when we uh,
Yeah.
see it.
I mean, NATOA and NTIA were more outcomes from the old RUS strategy, right? Fiber. So that's what they typically view as their primary area of responsibility.
Well, yeah, everybody wants fiber, even if it's to
Well, I
enable.
think fiber is not mobile. Fiber is a
Well,
DMOD.
even to enable a head end for a wireless connection.
Well, anyway, I'm just letting you know that's in our
Okay, well,
meetings. Okay.
yeah.
By the way, we have added connectivity for many users because all of AT&T now roams on Sun Global Broadband.
Yes, and I have.
So the FirstNet, Cricket, their other carriers are all running on Sun Global Broadband.
Well, and hey, I ran AT&T over Wi-Fi in Marshall Islands. It works fine.
Yep. So we're now the primary offload carrier designated by the Wireless Broadband Alliance for AT&T.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Appreciate the update.
Sorry for jumping in.
No, we
Oh, you muted yourself.
yeah, we have we discuss all the issues, debate the issues in the best kind of open, friendly tradition, right?
Yeah.
We appreciate questions. Questions are good, right? As I tell my students, if you have questions, I will reward you.
By the way, the AT&T press release will come out next month after our Wireless Global Congress in Dallas. So I'll be there representing Hawaii.
Well, I'm interested in whether cricket, the cricket will work
Yeah, we're now working with the founder of Cricket,
because
Renfred. Well, it's called Leap
the
back then.
way AT&T is a little expensive compared to some.
They're the big guys. Okay, thank you,
Thank
Shola.
you.
Thanks, everyone. Does anyone have any additional questions? No? Okay. Okay, so there is some technical difficulties. I'm not gonna lie. I'm trying to have some people are having issues actually with the Zoom link. I'm so sorry about that. I don't know what's going on. Can you give me a second to see if Mike, are you on your phone, right? You said?
I just disconnected my phone.
Aye.
I'm on the web browser. That seemed to work.
Amazing. Amazing. All right.
Yeah, that's fine.
Thank
we're in
you.
good shape. Thanks.
Thank
Let me
you,
just-
everyone. Okay, so this is Mike Lynch from NATOA. I'd like to introduce him. Thank you so much for rolling with our punches earlier
don't
this
worry about it. We're
morning,
in good
Mike.
shape.
I really appreciate it. But yeah, so I have him on here just to kind of share about his organization and the resources that they provide to counties and governments. And yeah, Mike, take it away. I do have your PowerPoint, your PDF
Oh, I
linked
just
onto the
did.
agenda.
Okay, I just did a memo, but I was not able
Gotcha.
to share it with anyone. apparently. I wasn't able to
Okay.
share it with the Google group. So if you can
Okay.
share that, that would be great.
Yeah, I have that on our website
Oh,
for
good.
everyone.
Very good. Great.
All right, Mike, take it away.
All righty. Gee, I apologize. I was going to put up a bit of a presentation, but I can't. I'm struggling a little bit here, so I will give that just a second, if you don't mind. And let me get up. So, well, thank you for inviting me. I appreciate being here. I'm not 100% sure that I'll be the right visitor for your group today, but normally what we do at NATOA is we tend to meet monthly as a policy group, a legal group, and review different activities at the FCC, in Congress, what's happening in some of the states, and also what's happening, say, across the industries, and for the last few years, the NTIA as well. That continues this year, although I must confess it's a lot more chaotic for the last couple of months. But we seem to be muddling through it okay. If this isn't exactly what you want, I took some of the highlights from our call last week and dropped it into that memo there. We just tend to try to curate the news and make it available to folks as we can. I think, I'm guessing Sean is in the room, but I think that know who NATOA is, right? Are you a little bit familiar, or?
No, give us the rundown of it all.
All right. NATOA has been around for about 40, 45 years. NATOA sort of developed out of the National League of Cities, if you will. So we still work very closely with it, but our focus was initially cable, and then later broadband, wireless, digital equity, et cetera. So we grew into this role, and we are uniquely fitted into local government. So the people who are members of NATOA tend to be. I was Boston's cable guy for like 35 years, or broadband office directors, maybe a PEG operation, a community media center, something along those lines. Yeah, and we annually have a conference. This year it'll be in New Orleans. I gave you a link there. If anybody gets interested in a trip to New Orleans in the middle of the summer, God, it's going to be hot. And we tend to advocate as best we can just for our little narrow slice of the world, right? For the telecom, the broadband, the cable, the wireless siting, the public rights of way, this sort of activity. And so far, it's worked out very well for us. So I know that Sean McLaughlin is actually, I think, is a former board member of NATOA and very active in your community as well. So he could give you a little more of a heads up. I put my contact information in that memo. So please, if you have any questions, sorry, the dog hears somebody outside. Sorry about that. If you, hang on one sec. Clancy, stop, please. If you have any questions, give me a shout. I'll kind of jump right in here and just tell you a couple of things that are going right on in NATOA right now. One thing is that we have our government programming awards. This is something that we make as a presentation later on at our conference in the summertime. I think we must get 900 applications for the NATOA awards every year, and it's kind of a big show because it's all the community media access groups. So if you're in the game, check it out, see what it works for you. Another thing that we have in the deadline, I feel like it will be something that will continue into next week. We have the Community Broadband and Digital Equity Awards. We tend to give awards in three categories. One is for a project, one is for a triple P, right? Public-private partnership, and one is for the effort of a community. If you have any interest in those, is I believe in your notes. And please take the opportunity to put in an application for a community award. We like to recognize activities that are successful in different states and in different communities. So we'd welcome you to take part in that if you want. Now, moving ahead, I think I'll just start with a little high-level touch here. I'll try to go through this in 5-10 minutes. If I'm more than that, ring a bell on me, okay? But I just want to touch briefly on Congress and administration and tell you that last week there were a couple of hearings actually at the Senate Commerce Committee, and one of them was for the nomination of Olivia Trusty. Olivia Trusty is going to be certainly going to be a commissioner of the FCC. She will take the chair that was vacated by Jessica Rosenworcel. She will not be chairwoman. But she will. We're now in a Republican administration, so it transitions from that third commissioner is no longer a Democrat. It will be a Republican. And Olivia Trusty has been a long time staff member of the Senate Commerce Committee, so she's well loved in the Senate, particularly on that committee. Her hearing was a bit of a cakewalk. Some people thought it would be harsh on her. There is a lot of tension in Congress. I'm sure you've heard this and seen this, you witnessed this stuff yourself. I'm at the point now where I have to stop watching CNN. It's just killing me. But at any rate, that'll be almost a certainty, and there's going to be a little bit of a question mark on what happens at the FCC in the coming year. Jeffrey Starks is a Democratic appointee to the FCC, and he has indicated that he will vacate his post this spring. Wasn't very specific about when, but if and when that happens, we're going to have more of an imbalance. We're going to have real trouble on the FCC, and there's no, how do I put this? There is no law really that requires that the seats be if a Democrat vacates a seat, he or she be replaced with a Democrat. They could be replaced with an independent, perhaps even a Republican. So we fear something weird might happen this spring. More to come on that later. You know about as much as I do right now. The other activity that was happening last week was that the Senate Commerce Committee voted on the nomination of Ariel Roth. Ariel Roth is the nominee to be the Assistant Secretary of Commerce. That kind of puts her in charge of NTIA, the National Telecommunications and Information Administration. These are the guys that gave us BEAD, that gave us the Digital Equity Competitive Grant, that give the state money under BEAD and the IIJA. There is, what, $42.5 billion that everybody's waiting to see if and when it will come through. Ms. Roth had previously at her hearing last week was, I don't want to say pro forma, but it was a nomination or an endorsement by the committee, then forwarding to the full Senate. I think her confirmation by the full Senate is imminent. It is running along partisan lines, but as we know, Republicans have a unilateral federal government at this point, right? They run the White House, they run Senate, and they run the House. So the only thing that was a little odd last week, I thought it was somewhat remarkable, is Miss Roth wasn't able to be in the room. She given birth to her sixth child last Wednesday, so she was otherwise occupied, as the saying goes. Now, she will most certainly take over the NTIA, and as I was trying to get on, I think on my phone at the time. I heard some discussion about fiber versus wireless versus satellite, et cetera. And I will tell you that Ms. Roth, as Undersecretary, Assistant Secretary, will almost certainly work to revamp BEAD funding and other activities to realign or reappropriate funding and target it towards some low Earth orbit satellite activity. We don't know what, we don't know proportionally how much. That process has not started yet, but it is almost certain to start. You'll notice in my notes there, it was kind of a weird week last week because there was quite a bit of activity. And then in the middle of it, the Free Press, national publication with a good reputation, reported that the Digital Equity Act funding is dead. Everyone is it has been paused for weeks, really, 6-8 weeks. And everyone is fearful that something will happen to it. Even governors and senators are concerned about it. They're all cautioning the Trump administration. We're ready for this money. Send it to us now. We want it now. So the states are looking for their money to get going. Some of them are literally at the point where all they need is the cash to get going. I don't know that the Free Press report was correct. The National Digital Inclusion Alliance had circulated it. There was a quote from somebody from the NTIA there has been no sort of official announcement. There's nothing on the website. No one, when you call the NTIA, no one is responding. And we haven't seen this confirmed in any other publication. So I think that's something that it's quite probably correct, but we're not certain yet what will happen. I suspect the BEAD money will, much of the BEAD money will go out as is. I can't see, the process to get here had 3 NOFOs, right? Each of these buckets of money had a very careful federal grant process to make it happen. I don't see them reinventing a NOFO process going forward to carve out something for wireless. On the other hand, and again, this was the conversation that you guys were having just before I jumped on, in a state like Hawaii, there are certainly areas that are probably better served by wireless connectivity or low Earth orbit satellite connectivity than by fiber, just by virtue of the cost of the deployment and the potential risk in weather for aerial deployment of fiber. I'm just speculating. I don't know your geography all that well, but I'm pretty sure that's the case. And I think actually all of us sort of agree. Some deployment by fiber is just cost prohibitive and technically infeasible. And it's not going to happen. And sort of looking at it with that lens now is not a bad thing. I think everyone just hopes that it is done very, very quickly. And when I say everyone, I mean Democrats and Republicans both. So that'll end that. Let me shift quickly into legislation. There have been a number of bills around broadband in Congress. The ones that we focus on are the 3 I mentioned in my notes. HR 278, which is the Broadband Leadership Act, HR 339, the Broadband Resiliency and Flexibility Investment Act, and HR 1975, the BEAD Fee Act. Those first 2 bills, are kind of like a bill that we had in the last session. Does anyone remember the bill called HR 3557, the American Broadband Deployment Act, which kind of hurt local government in its ability to manage its public rights of way, and it preempted much of our authority. That bill got out of the committee, but it never passed Congress. It was never brought up for a vote. Then the session of Congress ended at the end of 24. This is now a new Congress. That bill hasn't come back, but these 3 bills, in a way, encompass all of that activity and will be harmful to local government in its effort to help deployment. If we think about like the state money, the BEAD money, much of this money is not going directly to local government. But for those of you who work in and around counties and cities and townships, you know that the local government is best suited to help with deployment. Right? When the construction is happening, we protect the safety, we make sure it's secure. We also know where the unserved are, and we can direct that guidance. So it's incumbent upon us. We're sort of the last resort, right? We're right down where the construction's happening. We can tell you what needs to happen. And this sort of big, broad stroke by Congress to usurp our authority is dangerous. We are very concerned about it. NATOA, along with the National League of Cities, the U.S. Conference of Mayors, and the National Association of Counties, we drafted a letter. Congress on a little bit of a religious break. Well, they call it working from the district, but really it's a big Easter break or spring break in their calendar for 2 weeks. But when they come back, we suspect that a letter will go out. We will share that with you at that time. The next thing, and I'm kind of winding up at this point, but I suspected you guys would be interested a little bit in what's happening in other states. So I threw in a few links there that might help you. That first link is the BEAD grant windows. It's offered on a blog site called Broadband Breakfast. Pretty nice site. Does give a lot of good information out, and it's just an easy to use dashboard for tracking what activities are happening on what states and where they are in their progress. It's helpful. It has plenty of links in it as well. The next one is, you may know about this, I don't really know, but up in Minnesota, this is the second term that it will be filed in, but Minnesota is filing a bill called the Equal Access to Broadband Act, 974. And this is an interesting concept. This bill is an attempt by its sponsors, and its sponsors include the League of Minnesota Cities and MACTA. MACTA is like the state chapter of NATOA, if you will, And essentially what they're saying is that we're going to franchise broadband deployment. That's what we're going to do. So a lot of folks are saying, you can't do that. You can franchise cable, but you can't franchise broadband. I'm not so sure that's true. I'm not so sure it's applicable in every state, but they're making the effort, and I'm curious to see what will happen. It's something that we'll continue to track. I think the group called the Institute for Local Self-Reliance. One of the items in the notes that I've given you is from a guy named Sean Gonzalez. He's kind of their policy wonk, if you will, at ILSR. And he's encouraging every state or communities within every state to consider forwarding and adopting affordable broadband laws. As you know, New York has done so. Their law is active. It was repeatedly, efforts were made by the industry to block that law. And courts at the state level in New York did not allow it to be blocked. And the Supreme Court refused to listen to the case. So that's pretty much like a green light as well. So it's a very interesting one. I think that's a $15 package that they're offering. Massachusetts is right now advancing some similar legislation. And we'll see where it goes. I don't know. If I recall correctly, I think Hawaii has some current legislation, but I think it's just around moving the state broadband office. I don't think it's around affordability, is it? Okay,
Yes.
great. I'll take that as an all right. Thanks. All right, good. All right. Now, Sean mentioned last night in the email thread, and I hope you were able to get that information. The Chairman Brendan Carr of the FCC has launched a comment process on something called delete. It's a deregulatory thing, right? The Trump administration has come in and said we're gonna break government. We're gonna make it smaller, and we're gonna get rid of all these stupid rules. All these regulations that don't help anybody. Well, clearly, none of them have ever been in the need of protection from some of the regulations that we use in our jobs every single day. So this is the FCC's effort, and last Friday was the first day, the deadline for comments to be filed. In 2 more weeks, roughly the end of the month, there will be reply comments. I threw in a few links to some items here. I hope you take a look at them and think about whether or not you would want to reply to any of these comments if they have a particular impact on you. So, for instance, you'll see that among the comments was National League of Cities, NACO, and U.S. Conference of Mayors had come in and said, FCC, you should get rid of these 3 orders from the last 6 years because they stink. And those orders are what we call the small cell order, the 5G upgrade order, and the mixed use rule. The mixed use rule, if you recall, is particularly painful for PEG operations, right? This is the one that said cable companies can discount the value of their in-kind contributions against the revenue that they give to local communities. So it would hurt. It would be painful if it moves forward. At the very least, embracing those comments and endorsing them in a reply comment would be a great thing. NATOA would have joined this, but NATOA, our strategy turned out to be flawed. We thought there are no regulations that we really hate other than the 3 that were mentioned by the associations here, and we don't think that's going to go anywhere. We're not 100% sure, but we figured we'd wait till reply comments to see what the industry asked for. And most of the rest of what's in here is from the industry, and it is aggressive. They're all looking for some of the same things. Some are very sensible. There are burdensome regulations, 40 years old, well before a digital age, that require a lot of paperwork, a lot of mandatory filings. And they're saying, look, stop, you don't need it. And in reality, that's correct. Some of them are not just a regulation. Some of them are actually in federal law. So they can't change that at the FCC. Congress would have to address that. These rules, the rules that address cable and broadband and telco really started in the 70s and matured in the 80s and 90s, right? It goes right from like the breakup of Ma Bell all the way to the Telecommunications Act of 1996. There's a lot of stuff that went on there for 20 years. It's very hard. It's kind of like a crazy house of cards. You have integrated elements that weigh on each other. And if you start to pull one out, the whole thing would collapse. So it kind of makes us nervous. I am not, as you can probably tell, I'm not what you would call an innovative disruptor. I think there's been a historic process that got us to where we are. It is complicated, but it works. And what you do is what we've been doing for 40 years. You tweak things as the need needs to be addressed. I'm not sure what's going to happen here going forward, but I might just wrap up there. The rest of the stuff that I've put into my notes are really just quick headlines on what we have put into our monthly policy and legal call. If anybody wants to follow up at a later point, please shoot me an email, give me a call. Happy to help. With that, I'd like to take a pause and see if there's anything else that you would like to discuss today.
Yeah, I just have a few, I guess, questions. So with the wealth of the case studies that you gave us, which is really, really interesting, what was some of the roles that NATOA had in these case studies, or like or were they part of the different chapters, with NATOA, kind of that sort of questions? Were there chapters with
Well,
those states?
so not every state is active on issues of broadband and or cable, even on wireless siting. Hawaii has been active, actually. In your Senator Brian Schatz, right? He's been very helpful to us in Congress as well. One thing, how do I put this? Cable deployment, right? Initially it was coax, now it's all fiber, but cable deployment is very mature at this stage. It's stuff that started, say, 40 years ago, so they're already out there. A few overbuilders came in afterwards and wanted some other changes. To when they came in, when cable overbuilders came in, or broadband deployers, we'll call them today, right? When broadband providers decided they want to build some fiber and go reach out to some community, they couldn't get their heads around how do I permit this? How do I get down this street? How do I get out to those rural communities? They found it very overwhelming. They didn't understand the local permitting process. The local permitting process is just that. It's a protection for your local community, right? Who owns our public roads, parks, sidewalks? We do. And we want our local government to protect them, right? Every time somebody digs it up, right, they degrade that street. They run the risk of harming stormwater, water lines, electric lines, gas lines, other telephone lines, other broadband lines. So these are the challenges that we are responsible for in local government. And the overbuilding or the broadband deployment crowd, they just like all these permitting hassles to go away. And they're kind of winning this game in Congress because they've simplified it. They said, oh, local permitting, or another thing they hate is federal parkland permitting and state parkland permitting. They just hate it because it takes too long for them. But they don't, how do I say, they don't prepare themselves well. They don't educate the local government or park service that's responsible for that land. And that's where we tend to come in and try to be big advocates for our communities, because I think public right-of-way management, local permitting, and our great concerns about federal preemption of those things is a very hard concept to talk about and to convey the concern, because folks just don't get it. I noticed when I was with the city of Boston, it happened more than once, but people would ask things and say, can you get all those wires that are in front of my house and have them put underground? It's like, yeah, if you have $1 million, the local utilities will do that, you know. So there is a lack of appreciation for how we got here. But now that we are here, let's manage it carefully and focus on the things that matter. And what matters is making sure that everyone gets connected. And the second step to that is that trying to make it affordable for those who can't afford it, right? And that's where we help out. There are a number of states that have the industry kind of fought us at the state level years ago. So when you have a Democratic president and the industry doesn't get its way in Congress, they get down to the states and they try to change the laws at the state level to their advantage. And that has happened around cable franchising. Probably 20 states have statewide franchising. Around wireless siting, this would be towers or small cell or 5G. Around those items, probably again, about 20 states have done wireless siting laws to prohibit or preempt local activity. And, you know, that has been, I think that's something I've spoken in the past to a few folks in Hawaii about this, but wireless siting is a real pain because everybody thinks it's just build a tower, but it's not. You're bringing power to that, you're connecting that tower via fiber back to some network operations center somewhere. You're storing hundreds and hundreds of gallons of diesel fuel for a backup generator on the same location. You know, people think, oh, they're just putting up a little tower, let them do it. It's not. It's a complicated exercise. There's a lot involved. And we at the local government level want to make sure that we protect our citizens and their roads and their parklands. I don't know if that helps, but that's where we are. Yeah.
That's good. I never thought of it like that with the construction of even like the 5G. I know that Dan has a question about any developments in open access.
Dan, open access. I'm sorry.
Dan, did you want to?
Yeah,
elaborate
right.
on that?
You know, some of us been advocating for you know, choice of ISP. Um, Here in Hawaii, we have pretty much a duopoly.
Right.
And, and in fact, in the current legislation, the you know, a choice of ISP not obvious, although perhaps on the Hawaiian homeland, so they could you know, set up. They have enough volume that they could probably set up a separate ISP. So
Yeah.
any states leading in open access?
Not really. And again, so you're actually talking two things. You're talking about open access, meaning is anybody deploying something whereby it's open for anyone to lease some of the capacity within that fiber? And then not a lot of activity is happening there. I mean, as you know, the BEAD money, that $42.5 billion, whether it's state money or local money or competitive grants, that's going to those who are unserved first. And then if there's any money left over, it's supposed to go to address affordability. And affordability is sometimes a choice issue. So if a community is interested in their public housing, giving a cheaper alternative to broadband deployment, you know, inside wiring by a broadband outfit or cable outfit inside public housing, they might think about Wi-Fi, but the funding for that probably won't come until the second round, after the initial money has been spent getting folks connected. So I don't know if that answers you, Dan, but that's
Yeah,
kind of the way
well,
I see it. You know.
I think some of my inspiration anyway, and several others, has been Utopia Fiber, the
Yes.
Utopia Fiber model.
Yep.
Uh,
So Utopia is more like a municipal broadband, though. They tend to partner with local communities, right?
yeah, right.
Yep.
And you have a choice of you know, you pay one fee for your cable, the
Right.
fiber to your house, and you pay
Mhm.
another fee for the actual you know, content that comes down the
The
fiber.
traffic use, yeah. Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
So
So municipal broadband or public broadband is still very active. I don't know how much of you have on the islands, but a new association was launched last year, by Gigi Stone. Remember the former chief of staff to Tom Wheeler when he was at the SEC. Gigi's a really sharp person, very smart, and she is now the director of a group called the American Association for Public Broadband, and she's advocating for the unique challenges that they face. One of the biggest challenges usually they have, and again, if a local government is going to launch public broadband, right? Connect citizens who haven't been connected by an existing provider. Yeah, they usually have to put out a bond issue. They have to underwrite it, and communities get nervous. They don't want to. They don't want to put their entire community at risk. So it gets a little complicated. The rules aren't really friendly to them. And Gigi is spending a lot of time trying to educate and advocate on that.
Yeah, well, we have the MDU money.
Yeah.
Where you
Good.
could, for example, at a minimum, you could have a choice of at least two ISPs. Like where I live, effectively, there's only one, so I have no
Right.
choice. So I pay.
Yeah, I've got that. Yeah. Yeah, I live in Boston, and I have in the city we have 4 cable/broadband providers wired. But it just happens that the building I'm in, which has only been built 10 years ago, I think, they only wired for one. And of course, it's a small building, a dozen units or something like that. So nobody's interested in coming back. The math doesn't work on getting a return on that investment. The inside wiring is an issue, as you well know. It's an issue that can go on for days. It just gets very complicated.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Hey,
you.
Dan, this is Ed. Just to let you know, we finished 7 different communities already, connecting about 600 end users using Wi-Fi, not LTE or not cellular, because Wi-Fi is
Oh, yeah.
only half a watt. So it's just plug in the wall. There's no significant setup. And our range is about a half a mile to 1 mile bubble using Wi-Fi. So it's a technology we developed with NASA and HP Labs. And that's we're the first in the world with that. So we're actually now working with different groups, including ICE, to do border control. So I just want to make you guys aware there is alternative technology, because when we look at resilience, we're looking at, and I own a fiber company as well. Resilience is also timing, and if there's disruption of service, time to restore. So fiber is not always the most gold standard when it comes to resilience because of time to restore and the timing to deploy.
So for these, the service over Wi-Fi have a choice of ISPs or?
Actually, we're a neutral, so we actually we're not a carrier, so we use any backhaul. So we actually support the carriers, okay? But what we do is a last mile connectivity. Because of the 42 billion, I think one of the issues came up was how many people were actually connected. We're
Right.
actually the connection side of the equation. So we support carriers and we support communities. And that's the biggest difference.
And I assume, I could be wrong, that sounds really interesting, but I assume you're delivering that Wi-Fi free. You're underwriting its deployment.
The Wi-Fi is subscribed as an ISP.
Oh, really? Interesting. So is there a paywall?
Yeah, so we're an aggregator.
Okay.
We use a captive
Yep.
portal, okay?
Mhm.
And typically we're about 1/10 the cost of cellular and any other fiber service. The idea was to provide that, and Dan knows, to provide it for rural communities, okay?
Yeah.
Who've been waiting in some cases decades for
Yep.
connectivity.
Right.
The cost model just doesn't fit if you have to spend a couple $100 to trench the last 1,000 feet. It just
That's
doesn't
right.
add up. Or even to do aerial, which is at least $75 a foot. Okay?
Right.
So no one's going to pay that in rural areas.
Mhm.
Therefore, wireless is the best way. And Wi-Fi is the least cost because you don't need a truck
Right.
roll, you don't need a generator.
I think Ed,
exactly,
when
yeah.
Mike was talking about the expense, he was talking about like the cost to put up the pole by which your Wi-Fi device connects to, like the original large
Well, A
infrastructure.
pole costs about $5,000. Okay,
Mhm.
but it's a whole permit process, and then you actually have to put the messenger wire up, you have to put the cable up. There's a whole process to it, and then you have to support it with a pedestal which has your demarc. Okay, that's
Understood.
all that's billing.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
a lot of the costs for setting that up is in your control systems, not just in the last mile fiber.
Okay, but I do have a question though. If you are running on regular ISP's backhaul and their fiber goes down, doesn't that mean that your wireless network will also
We
go
pick
down?
up backhaul from cellular, we pick up backhaul from Starlink, we pick up backhaul from Hawaiian Tel or Spectrum. We pick it up from whatever is closest and can provide service. So we are actually act as a net neutral provider.
Mhm.
The
Can you
issue,
You're
switch on a
agnostic.
dime?
Yeah.
Can you switch though? Like, so say that
yeah,
there's
so
a
if we deploy in an area and then they build it out later with fiber, they can always migrate off. Okay, but at least they're served, so it's timely. Otherwise, we're waiting 5, 7. I think in the last meeting in Hilo, they were talking about 9 years before they start to deploy fiber. That's a 14-year wait.
Yeah.
That was what DHHL was, the homestead people were most upset about was, why did you take a half a day to go through all the government processes and then tell me I gotta wait at least 12 years?
Right.
Okay, so a lot of it is timing, okay? In the case of most places like Las Vegas, they just don't wait. Las Vegas is all CBRS and all Wi-Fi,
Mhm.
okay? So we're working with them as a second city, but we're not deploying that because we're waiting for government funding, which is primarily written around the standard, which has been a 50-year standard, which is fiber. I mean, it's been around for 60 years. It's not new. Technologies, there's many diverse hybrid networks being deployed now, okay? But people have only focused on legislation.
Yeah, I mean, if you have internet, in theory, you can go anywhere as long as there's not
That's right.
any blocking. You
Most
can
people today are mobile,
streaming service,
and most
whatever
new
you want.
services are mobile IoT. So mobile IoT is not well served by fixed cable.
Mhm.
Smart city is all mobile IoT. AI is all mobile IoT. Okay, that's where the data stream comes from.
but cellular takes its backhaul off of fiber.
Well, I'm not saying use the backhaul wherever you can. There is backhaul that you can always leverage, but it's not just one fixed technology. It's not one hammer fits every situation.
Agreed, agreed. And so in some situations, a technology like yours that can deploy quicker with a smaller pole investment to begin with while you're waiting for the fiber, more reliable fiber to come through can be a solution.
I'll give you an example.
Permanent solution, maybe, maybe not. You know, what is the most resilient? That really depends where you're
Well,
at.
it opens the market up to the consumer to select what they want as service,
Mhm.
reliability, and timing. Otherwise, they're just held hostage. I'll give you a case point, Mike.
Yep.
Sea Life Park, 5 acres.
Okay.
Verizon quoted $1 million for a tower, okay, to do a setup. We quoted 100 grand and put it up in 4 days. Wi-Fi, covering all 5 acres with mobility.
Right.
They can go back and put in cellular later. I'm not saying don't do it,
Yep.
but
Right.
at least now they have service and they're using it profitably.
Mhm. Yeah, and I don't know what volume of traffic you have, but to Sarah's question, everybody will always have some alternative backup, which you're
That's
not going
right.
to use that often, and you're not going to have your backup match necessarily your daily capacity. You're just using it in a pinch to, for sort of emergency use, if you will, in a couple of hours till it take or
We're carrying
days that it
about
takes to recover.
5,000 users per day on our network.
There you go.
In Waikiki, we're carrying close to 60,000 users per day, 10,000 sessions simultaneously.
And with that, We are actually coming up to our time right now. I am so sorry. Thank you for the discussion, everyone. And thank you so much, Mike, for joining us today. I really appreciate hearing about the way that you use like legislation to kind of help our local governments. And also that we have a Hawaii chapter, which is also really nice to see. But with that, everybody, I really mahalo you all for joining us today. Mike, thank you so much. I really,
And
really
thank you for
appreciate
having
your
me.
time. Thank you so
Good to
much.
see everyone. Take care now.
Awesome. But so for Broadband Hui in next week, if we would like to have one, I still have some people set up to do the exploration of connectivity options. If not, we can wait and we can restart at the beginning of March. I mean, sorry, the beginning of May, since we do the first and third Wednesdays of the month. What is everyone feeling on that? Do it on the 30th of April, or we can wait to the first Wednesday of May, which will be May 7th. Thoughts? First and
Keep
third
on the
Wednesday.
First and thirds.
Sounds good. Okay, so we will not be having it on the 30th. I will be taking that off of the calendar on the website. But we will be meeting on May 7th. Okay, everybody? Alrighty. Mahalo for joining us today, everyone. Be safe out there this week. Enjoy the time off. We will see you on May 7th. Aloha and mahalo, everyone. We'll see you later. Thank you.
Oh.